Alright, class, this is Mr. Beller. And so today, the first part of class, you want to pair up with somebody, exchange guided readings for pages 700 to 740, which is taking care of American society during the 1920s and taking care of the Harding administration, the Coolidge administration, and the election of Herbert Hoover. There's two parts here that you want to go through, or I guess a couple things you want to go through when you're looking at this peer review. First is the checklist of terms. You want to make sure that the partner has a following that I'm going to list off, explained in their guided reading. If there's not a specific question about one of these terms, ask your partner about it. Making sure that they can explain these terms sufficiently. They know and they understand what these are and how they relate to the time period. So going through this, the Red Scare, your partner needs to know what it was, why did it happen, when did it happen, who is being targeted, A. Mitchell Palmer and the Palmer raids, who was he, what were the Palmer raids, what were some of the effects of the Palmer raids, Sacco and Vanzetti, who were they, what does their trial illustrate, the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan, how is this Klan different from the Klan in the 19th century, Immigration Acts of 1921 and 24, what do they do, why did Congress decide to put quotas on immigration levels, which immigrant groups are targeted more than others, the specific years as far as the quotas are concerned, why is that important, Prohibition, what was it, why was it overall a failure, organized crime, what's the connection between Prohibition and organized crime, who's Al Capone, the Scopes trial, what was the central issue of the Scopes trial. Also look on my blog. I'm going to put a little 3 to 4 minute clip from a movie called Inherit the Wind, which is modeled after the Scopes trial. And when Clarence Darrow, I think your book talks about Clarence Darrow makes William Jennings Bryan look like a fool on the stand. William Jennings Bryan says that he's willing to testify as an expert on the Bible. This clip on my blog will kind of illustrate, what does David Kennedy mean when he says that Clarence Darrow made William Jennings Bryan look foolish. A side note to the substitute, you can show that as soon as this list gets done. If you want to go ahead and click the link, you can show it. It's only like 4 or 5 minutes long. Henry Ford, Fordism, his connection to Frederick Taylor. How does Henry Ford and I guess on a larger scale, this mass production assembly line method, how does that make the automobile boom and everybody is able to have a car? What's the impact of the automobile on American society? Bruce Barton, advertising during the 1920s. What were they going after? What were their techniques? I talked about Frederick Taylor. The impact of the radio, the impact of film. You might want to just make note of when the radio first came out, as far as the broadcast of Warren G. Harding's election victory. Sorry, I have a cough drop in. The impact of film, things like Birth of a Nation, The Jazz Singer, Talkies, stuff like that. Margaret Sanger and Alice Paul, who were they? What did they mean for the women's movement in the 1920s? We do want to remember the Equal Rights Amendment that is introduced in the 1920s, and that's going to become a central issue in the 1970s. Marcus Garvey and Black Pride, this can also be tied into the Harlem Renaissance and people like Zora Neale Hurston, Claude McKay. You can also discuss jazz, a little bit. The Lost Generation, why are they called the Lost Generation? Do they know where they are? Are they really? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. But who is it? F. Scott Fitzgerald, Ernest Hemingway, Ezra Pound, T.S. Eliot, Gertrude Stein, Sinclair Lewis. You do want to, know some of the famous titles that are associated with each author. Wall Street in the 1920s, talking about the speculation and the Florida real estate bust. Andrew Mellon's fiscal policies. What does he believe in? What are some changes that he makes? Then we get into the next chapter with the Harding administration. Who's in Harding's cabinet? GOP's return to normalcy. What does this mean, or how does this reflected in some of their actions? Talk about their relationship with business. Some important court rulings. I believe like Atkins versus the Children's Hospital is going to be a big one that they put in the book. Labor movement after the war, or labor after the war. This is going along with number 23, the return to normalcy. How's labor affected by the GOP's return to the presidency? American foreign policy. So the Washington Naval Conference, or the Disarmament Conference, includes a couple big treaties here: 5-power, 4-power, 9-power treaties. You want to know what these are doing, the ratios that are associated with the naval ships, who's involved with it, any lasting impacts that this might have. Kellogg-Briand Pact, what was it? Fording-McCumber tariff. Tariffs are a little tricky. I'm going to go Andrew Jackson on this and say tariffs are part of foreign policy. So we want to look at how does the United States raise the tariff rates? How does this affect their relationship with other countries? And really looking at the Fording-McCumber tariff and connecting it to maybe the creation of the Dawes Plan. United States is trying to get loans back from World War I. With the Harding administration, the scandals that are associated with this, the Teapot Dome scandal, the scandal with the Veterans Bureau, Calvin Coolidge, just his personality, some of the things that he does for the veterans of World War I, some of the things that he doesn't do for the farmers, McNary, Hogginville, and then the election of Herbert Hoover, 1928. If your partner is missing any of these terms, or they could not demonstrate sufficient knowledge or understanding through discussion, please make note on their guided reading, and that way the expectation is that they're going back and they're filling the gaps in their content knowledge. Once you're done with this, we can play that short little clip and also continue to work on the rest of the chapter where you left off, causes of the Great Depression. The Great Depression, I believe the chapter stops with the election of Franklin Roosevelt. All right, I hope that this has helped you guys out, and I look forward to seeing you next week.